Hello. Okay, so this video is all about how to reintegrate and test what your triggers for acne are. So with the AES method, we have you eliminate all the potential triggers, right, when you first start the program, for the sake of getting you clear as quick as possible. We don't have you eliminate all the potential triggers because you're going to be triggered by all of them, right? Like we tell you, there are 4 categories of triggers: lifestyle, diet, ingestibles, and then natural triggers. And we have you eliminate, well, as much as you can. We can't have you eliminate natural triggers like hormones and bacteria and oil. But the ingestibles, the products, and the lifestyle stuff, we have you eliminate. And once we get you clear, we have you start integrating them, because once you're clear, we can really test what you're actually triggered by, right? Because everyone's acne puzzle is unique. So what triggers me is what not triggers you. And we both might be triggered by the same trigger, but not in the same amount. So I might break out from 1 serving of dairy a week, and you might break out from 7 servings of dairy a week. Like, you might need a lot more than me to get triggered. So I have a client who is all graduated now. She graduated. She was one of the quickest graduates ever. She cleared up like in no time, and she's been so good. And she said that she went to Mexico and had some cotija cheese, as you should when you're in Mexico. But she's really antsy to get back to reintegrating and testing the triggers, and hopefully getting to enjoy some more cheese, I'm guessing, is what she wants to integrate. But regardless of what it is that you want to start testing first, you want to choose one. Okay, so you don't start integrating everything at one time, because then we won't be able to hone in on what your actual trigger is. But if it's cheese, for example, and obviously you're going to choose the thing that you miss the most, so it might be cheese or soy or some liquid makeup, and you start integrating that 1 time a week or 1 serving a week for 6 to 8 weeks, right? Because each category of triggers has a different delayed reaction time. So products show up in days to weeks, diet shows up in weeks to months, lifestyle shows up usually like in hours to days. But especially with diet stuff, because it takes 1 to 3 months to show up on your skin, we kind of use 2 months as like the safe zone. So if you're gonna start integrating cheese or whatever kind of dairy, you would start having it 1 time a week for the next 6 to 8 weeks. If you want to be real safe, I'd say 8 to 12, but 6 to 8 is a pretty safe bet. And at any point that you see it, you see any increase in breakouts, as long as that is the only potential trigger that you've been exposed to over the past weeks or months, you know that's it, right? Now, most people can handle dairy at least 1 time a week. There was a point where I was triggered by it, even just having it 1 time a week. But I also think that's because I didn't have a regimen that was counterbalancing the effects of it. So again, what you're triggered by is not just going to vary person to person, but it's also going to depend on at what point in your acne journey you are, right? Like if you are using products that are controlling the acne process well enough, you might be able to have a lot more dairy than you would if you weren't using those products. So everyone's different. And the other thing is that what triggers you now might not be what triggers you later. So don't get discouraged. Like if you have dairy once a week and in a few weeks you realize that it's actually triggering for you, that might not be the case in months, years from now. So don't be discouraged. So rules, sorry, that was a lot of talking and not a lot of clarity. So you choose one thing that you miss the most, okay? You start integrating it 1 time a week. You do that for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you determine where you're at. Now, if you're happy with where you're at and you feel like it's not triggering enough, or it hasn't triggered you to the amount that you're worried, then you can move up to twice a week for 6 to 8 weeks. And you keep going like that until you hit the point where either it triggers you or you're just over it. Like you might be at dairy 4 times a week and you might be like, you know what, that's enough. I'm good with that. Don't want to risk it. Now, every time you integrate a trigger and every time you increase the integration of a trigger, there's a potential for breakouts, right? So just decide, what feels good to you, and if it's enough for you, if dairy 4 times a week is enough for you, just don't bother even risking it. Now, if you want to test 2 different triggers, okay, so let's say you want to, let's say we made you cut out that liquid makeup at the beginning of boot camp, and you also really miss cheese, and you want to integrate both, you have to choose one thing at a time. Okay, so you can't just start using, and we have a lot of people who do this, even though we give very clear instructions, or maybe I don't give clear instructions, I don't know. But I feel like we give pretty clear instructions to people every time they graduate on how to start testing triggers and what the process should be and how it should be slow and you should only do one thing at a time. But people still inevitably will like start using their old liquid makeup and eating dairy. And then what happens is when you break out, we have no idea what's what. We don't know what caused it. And then it can take multiple treatments. Like sometimes you have to reboot camp people. So they have to come in for another 3 to 4 months of boot camp so we can purge the effects of all of that out before we can get them back to baseline and they can start integrating again, right? So go slow, choose one thing at a time. Only go as far as you really miss something, and wait the full 6 to 8 weeks before determining whether or not it's a trigger for you. Okay, if you have any questions, ask me, comments below.